There is a solution for that is sponsored by VARC Solutions. VARC Solutions helps small businesses succeed by delivering expert QuickBooks bookkeeping, consulting, quick-base development, and integrated solutions. If you own a small to medium-sized business that uses QuickBooks or QuickBase, the experts at VARC Solutions can help. In business since 1999, with people who care and the knowledge and experience to solve your toughest problems. Visit varcsolutions.com for all your QuickBooks needs. Welcome back to another edition of There's a Solution for That, where we help small businesses succeed by discussing challenging business problems and best-in-class solutions. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of There's a Solution for That. We have got a great topic for you. Quite frankly, we are a bookkeeping company, and we get questions all the time from people that I network, people that are in a small, medium-sized company that are looking to hire a bookkeeper. And one of the questions that we often get is, well, how do you hire good people? In this day and age, it's really, really hard to find good people. Once you find them, it's good to keep them, right? But specifically when it comes to highly technical positions, like a bookkeeper, like an internal accountant, like a controller, like an office manager, there's positions that you really need to weigh heavily. If you make a mistake in hiring a bookkeeper, it can cost you thousands of dollars. It could cost you a lot more than that. If you don't have the right people on board the bus, so to speak, it can be a really big problem. And so my goal in this particular episode is to share some of the wisdom, some of the best practices that we've learned over time on how to find and hire a really, really solid, very qualified bookkeeper for your small, medium-sized company. Now, a lot of what we do and everything that we kind of talk about is in the context of QuickBooks. So I'm going to be focusing this particular episode on finding a QuickBooks bookkeeper, but I think the same principles apply no matter what size business you're in. If you don't use QuickBooks, some of the same concepts will apply to you for sure. So again, I think this will quite frankly apply to anybody that's in a business, whether you're an owner, an office manager, and you're just looking for someone to come in and help. That applies as well. So again, I've got a pretty systematic process that we go through when we hire a bookkeeper for our company. Same thing could apply for you if you're hiring a bookkeeper for your company. My goal is to share those 7 best practices, if you will, the kind of things that we look for to make sure that we're not just hiring a good bookkeeper, but a great bookkeeper. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. And I really, really hope you get a lot out of this. So the first thing that we recommend when starting to screen candidates for a bookkeeping position is look for relevant past experience. So this means a couple different things. If I'm hiring for a bookkeeper, I'm not looking for someone that's been an office manager. If I'm looking for a QuickBooks bookkeeper, I'm not looking for somebody that's been an AP clerk or an AR clerk. If somebody puts the words like full rate bookkeeper, full charge bookkeeper on the resume, that's a pretty good sign because they're saying I'm a bookkeeper. But if there's any other positions or titles, office manager, AR clerk, AP clerk, accounts receivable specialist, AR specialist, AP specialist, anything that's like either super, super unique and niche or really not bookkeeping, I would stay away. Okay. Now, again, that's assuming you're trying to find somebody to fill a bookkeeping position. If you need a jack of all trades that can come in and do office management, they can do some admin and clerical work around the office, they can dabble in bookkeeping and maybe even make collections calls and help fill out client packets and mail stuff. Okay, that's totally fine. But if you're looking for a dedicated role, a dedicated position to spend most, if not all of the time bookkeeping, I think that's when you really truly need to look for that bookkeeping title or position and make sure that that's what you're going after. I think another key point here when it comes to past experience is it needs to be recent past experience. In other words, if you're looking at a candidate and they were a bookkeeper 10 years ago and that's their most recent position when they were a bookkeeper, again, I would stay away. Now, you might be filtering out somebody that could be an amazing person for your team. So it's not a hard and fast rule. But what I'm suggesting is, at least from our experience, if you're looking for a bookkeeper and they've been a bookkeeper in their last position or the last 1 to 2 years, okay, you've got a pretty good chance of getting someone good there. But if it's been 5 years, 10 years, maybe it was, hey, that's what they did 15 years ago. Then they took a break. They got married. They had children, which again is very common and totally fine. But if they're 10 years ago, now coming back into the profession, there's a lot of stuff that's changed in the last 5, 10 years. And so you may not be getting somebody that's quite as current or up to speed on the current software and how that software works, the integrations that might be needed by your company. So again, I just think someone with relevant experience in the recent past is a best case scenario. Now, one other point when it comes to past experience, again, that I think is super crucial is company size matters. Company size matters. If you are a traditional small to medium sized company, and that's a relative phrase, right? That's a relative, meaning open to interpretation. But let's say you've got 1 to 50 employees. You're making anywhere from a couple $100,000 to maybe $2, $3, $4 million. You're still in that small to medium sized base or lower mid market, upper side of small, somewhere in that range. The needs of a company in that range is completely different from a company that's making $200-300 million a year, has it maybe a full-blown ERP system where it's not just bookkeeping, but it's everything that you're doing in your company. You might need something different. If you're a Fortune 100 company, if you're a Fortune 500 company, the needs in that business is completely different than a small business. So again, what are we looking for? If you're a small, medium-sized company and you're looking for a bookkeeper for your company, I would avoid anyone who has quote unquote bookkeeping experience in a super big company. Okay. A medium large company, a Fortune 1000, a Fortune 500, a Fortune 100, they have completely different experiences. The accounting and controls and auditing and systems and compliance in those bigger companies, completely different than in a small business. And so I would suggest you look for somebody who's been there and done that in your size business as well. So those are just some of the past experience keys that I look for. Another element of this, and so this is kind of like the second tip here, is that industry experience matters. Now, again, I don't know your business, right? I don't know specifically what you do. You're watching this, you're listening to this. I don't know what you do, but I can tell you this. If you're in a specific industry, you might need specialized bookkeeping help. Now, I'm going to give you a few examples just to kind of give you a taste for this. But if you're in a food and beverage business, if you're in a restaurant, if you're in a catering business, the needs of those types of businesses is pretty different than an online SaaS company. Okay. If you're in the property management business, whether it's commercial property management, residential property, multi-tenant family homes, that industry is incredibly unique. There's very, very specific things that you have to account for and manage in those types of businesses. And if you don't have somebody with experience in that industry, they're going to have to learn not just how you do business, but they're going to have to learn that industry. And that's maybe something that you don't necessarily want to invest in if you can find somebody else that already has that experience. Broker dealers, construction companies, companies that have high volumes of inventory and warehouse management needs, very, very specialized. Boutiques that have point of sale systems, consignment companies where your people are lending you stuff to sell, and then there's commissions, but you don't ever own the inventory. I mean, there's some very, very unique industries out there. If you're a consultant, okay, if you've got a bookkeeper that's has experience working with consulting companies, it's probably going to be totally fine. Okay. Just consider what your industry is. You'll know it. If there's very, very unique special things that you do in your industry, it's best to find someone who has experience in that industry. All right, my third tip, are they certified? Is the person you're looking for to hire as a bookkeeper certified in what they do? Now, Here's a couple different suggestions here. There's actually in the Intuit QuickBooks world, there are a couple different tiers or types of certifications that you should be looking for. Now, I'm going to break this down into sort of like good and better, okay, or better and best, if you will. One level of certification is called user certification. The other level, the higher level, is what's called Pro Advisor certification. So I'm going to just break those down real briefly so you can kind of get a sense for it. But the bottom line is when you're looking at resumes and you're interviewing candidates, you need to be asking them, are you certified? And tell me more about that. And so I'll give you a few examples of specifically what I mean by that. User certification is something you can go take a class for, you can go take pass a test on, and you don't have to be a super expert in the software. You just need to know how to get around, get in and out of the software, find your way around a little bit, using the basic features of the software. Okay. Again, it doesn't mean you're an expert. It doesn't mean you can do massive cleanup projects. It doesn't mean you can troubleshoot. It doesn't mean you can fix a lot of problems. What it does mean is you have enough basic information about the software, QuickBooks, for example, to get in and do some basic work there. Okay. That's what user certification is. Think of it as like the high school diploma or associate's degree of bookkeeping within a QuickBooks environment. Okay. It's called QuickBooks user certification. The next tier up and the higher level of certification, though, is called QuickBooks Pro Advisor certification. Anybody that says they're a pro advisor, it's a higher level of certification. It means that they're a specialist in QuickBooks. They are a consultant potentially in QuickBooks. So think of it like this. A pro advisor can use the software, but they can also do a little bit higher level stuff. And there's even within the pro advisor certification, there's like level 1, level 2. I mean, there's a couple different tiers within it. But just to keep it simple for people that are listening and watching, if they say pro advisor, that means something, and it's better than user certification. A pro advisor should be able to get in, find mistakes, clean things up, improve what you've got, not just do what somebody else has done, but really come in and improve what you're doing, fix some of the messes, maybe clean up some of the problems, troubleshoot if there's issues that come up. They should be at that consultant level of QuickBooks expert, and they should be able to help you at a higher level. So think of that as the BBA or possibly even the master's degree, so to speak, in QuickBooks. So again, you're looking for pro advisor certification is the best. User certification is at least good, but both of those, by the way, are better than no certification. It is very, very common when I'm looking at a stack of resumes, when we're hiring a bookkeeper, to not see any certifications. They might say that they know QuickBooks on there, hey, I've got skill or I've got experience in QuickBooks. But if they don't call out that they're certified, that is something that I would either consider other candidates, or I might ask them if they impress me on a phone interview, if they impress me on that initial face-to-face interview, I want to ask them, are you certified? Tell me more about that. Are you willing to get certified if you've got somebody that does seem like a very good candidate, but maybe just hasn't gone through the work yet? Okay. But those are things to ask for and take a look at. Okay. Now, here's another point that I think is incredibly important, and that is you need to test these candidates to see if they truly do know QuickBooks. I'm going to tell you something you're not going to want to hear. But again, this is based on real live experience interviewing people that are interviewing with our company to be a QuickBooks bookkeeper for our clients. 8 out of 10 people that apply to be a bookkeeper for us don't know QuickBooks. Okay, now they say that they do, and that's the key distinction there. Somebody will put on a resume, I know QuickBooks. When we get them into our office and we interview them, we find that they don't really know QuickBooks. Okay, so now, and by the way, I'm not suggesting this is, someone being untruthful, like, hey, I got a degree, in advertising, but there's no evidence that they ever got a degree in advertising. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about lying on a resume. Okay, I know that happens, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about somebody who says, hey, I've used QuickBooks in prior jobs. I know the software, I can do this job, but then we bring them in and we actually test them in the software, and they prove to us during that testing process they don't really know QuickBooks. Okay. So again, we're trying to go from what they say to proving it. And so you really, truly, truly need to put them to the test. And I'm going to give you a few examples of what we do. I mean, it's one thing just to say, do you know QuickBooks? How long have you used QuickBooks? What have you done in QuickBooks? That's totally fine. But you need to take it to that next level and test them. So a couple areas that you need to test. Number one, speed and accuracy. Both are required. You could have the most accurate bookkeeper in the world, but if they are really, really, really slow, like it takes them a long time to do things, that's going to be frustrating for you. And you just know that things are going to take a long time. You can also have the opposite, right? You can have somebody that's super, super, super fast, but not very accurate at all. And now you're going to be seeing mistakes, finding mistakes a week later, a month later, 3 months later, 3 years later. You're going to be finding stuff that they just didn't catch because they were trying to go too fast. So you really do need people that are both quick, efficient with their time, and accurate. Both are super important. Understanding basic accounting concepts. This is not a given. Just because I went to school, just because I know the software, doesn't mean I know accounting, doesn't mean I know generally accepted accounting principles or GAAP. Okay. So I can go write a check. It doesn't mean I know QuickBooks. I can write a check. It doesn't mean I know accounting. So you can test them on some basic accounting concepts. If I bought a truck, is that thing an asset or is that an expense? I mean, you can ask them some basic questions and kind of see, okay, do they have a sense for that? Something else that we do when we test our candidates is we give them a register test. We give them the equivalent of a bank account register, and it's got, let's just say it has some mistakes in there, and we're asking them to find what's missing. We're asking them to find the mistakes, because if somebody can see the mistakes that you've put in your bank account register, they will hopefully be able to avoid those same mistakes when they're doing the data entry. And when they're looking at your books, they ought to be able to find the things that you've done wrong, or maybe the prior bookkeeper has done wrong. So being able to see what isn't there and being able to see the mistakes is a crucial test. We have a register test that we use. If you're interested in getting a copy of it, just reach out to us. You can go to our website at varcsolutions.com, use the contact form, and just say, hey, Brad mentioned a register test for interviewing bookkeeping candidates. I'm happy to send that to you and share that with you. We feel like it's a pretty good test, and it tends to work. But one of the things that test also allows us to do is it allows us to see how quickly they identify the mistakes that are in that bank account register. So are they quick, or do they move through that thing super fast and only find 2 out of maybe the 10 or 15 different errors that we've put in there? So we are testing both speed and accuracy in the register test that we give candidates. Again, let us know if you want to copy that. Happy to share that. The second test that we do, and again, I think this is actually even the most important thing. You could even start with this if you wanted to, is to actually sit them in front of the software and have them do some things. So what we do is we have a laptop. We sit them down in front of the laptop. We have QuickBooks pulled up on the screen, and that could be the desktop software that if that's what you use. It could be the QuickBooks Online software if that's what you use. Just have the software on the screen. And what I do is I just ask them to do a few things with us real time while I'm watching them. So, no pressure, right? But I say, hey, hey, let's just say we got a bill from one of our vendors. Can you go add a vendor to our vendor list? Can you go add a bill to that new vendor? And then I might even ask them, well, hey, what if this vendor is eligible for 1099? Where do you go into the vendor settings to specify that this vendor is eligible for 1099? Okay. If somebody's been using the software at any level, they should be able to do those basic things without problem, without hesitation, right? We will say, hey, can you go enter a customer invoice? Can you go write a check? Just the basics here. But when I say that 8 out of the 10 people that we interviewed don't know QuickBooks, even though they said that they do. What I'm telling you is that 8 out of the 10 people that we interview in that scenario, they fumble around with these basic things that I've just suggested that you have them do. Okay. They will fumble around looking for the vendor. They will fumble around trying to figure out where do I go to add a bill. They'll be looking for a minute, like what's the button that I'm supposed to click to write a check. If you have somebody that's fumbling around with just those basics, trust me, they do not know the software. This is a person to avoid hiring. Say thank you, have a nice day. We'll let you know. But what you're hoping for and what you're looking for is somebody that, you say, hey, can you go add a vendor? And they go, boom, 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 done. Okay, great. Now that you've done that, can you go ahead and add a bill? And they go, boom, 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 and they enter the bill. And then you say, can you, okay, great. Go ahead and you go write a check, boom, boom, boom. And there they are. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody who doesn't hesitate because they've used the software, they know the software, and they can move around super fast. Okay. That's what you're looking for. And so that's a good test. So we're talking about speed and accuracy, but we're also talking about software proficiency. Can they actually get in the software and move around quickly? That's going to be a big challenge, a big test to see if somebody really truly does know the software. All right. Now, my next tip is on what I call the art versus the science of bookkeeping. Okay. There is an art and a science to it. The science part is I can get in and I can code transactions. I can I can do a sync and update the bank feeds for my bank account or my credit card. And I can go in there and say, okay, that's rent. That's a meal. That was a flight. That was an office supply. That's the transactional type of coding that you're looking for somebody who just knows the science of bookkeeping. The art is I know how to code those transactions correctly. I can make distinctions between this was an office expense versus this was a printer. Okay, this was a a $20,000 truck asset versus a $20,000 truck expense. You're looking for somebody who knows some of that accounting concepts so that they're coding things properly. And best in a worst case scenario, they at least know when to pause and go, maybe I need to go reach out to the CPA and say, how should this be handled? Because this is not a normal scenario. This is not a normal transaction. I think business acumen is also a really, really important thing here when it comes to the art side of what you do. I mean, just think about it like this. Let's say you are in the property management space. You have tenants, whether it's a multifamily unit or an apartment building or an office suite, commercial office building, whatever. Okay, you've got tenants. Knowing how it works in those type of environments can help you make sure that the accounting is right. There's things like CAM adjustments, common area maintenance, that you have to apply and reconcile and charge to your tenants. And if somebody doesn't even get that concept, maybe because again, they haven't been in your industry, it's going to be a learning curve, right? And so again, I prefer to hire people that already have the experience, that already have the knowledge versus spending 3-6 months training them on how to do that industry or how to do that thing. And so business experience, business acumen, probably one of the more underrated requirements in a bookkeeping position, but I think it's incredibly helpful if somebody does, right? If somebody's been an entrepreneur before, and you're an entrepreneur and you need them to come in and help you, it helps to have some of that background and experience. But that business acumen, just some of the basic accounting concepts is super important. Okay. So that is, those are some of the things when it comes to science versus art. Give you a few other examples. Hey, what happens when you charge a customer for a service, but then there's a chargeback with the credit card company. Okay. Just understanding that happens and knowing how to deal with that. Okay. That happens. What happens when there's a declined credit card? What happens if you've got an e-commerce website and it doesn't sync to your QuickBooks or stop syncing to your QuickBooks? How are loan payments different than normal expenses? How do you handle owner draws versus paychecks, salary or hourly wages, things like that? So some of those just things, they're really, really hard to teach if somebody has never experienced those things. So again, look for those types of things. Here's another tip for you, and that is to do background checks. Okay. Background checks are critical. You might be surprised by this, but there are thieves everywhere. Businesses get stolen from all the time. We get calls, not every day, but I mean, we get calls frequently from people that are like, hey, I had an office manager. I just found out she stole from me. I had a partner that was stealing from me for years. We just discovered it. We just separated ways. I need help. But here's the point. Even people that you trust, people that are maybe doing your bookkeeping now, those are also people that have access. And when you have access to money, the temptations are oftentimes too great, and people will take advantage of that and they will steal your money. So, question is, have they ever been caught before? Has it ever gone to trial? Have they ever had a court case filed against them? Have they ever been convicted? Those are the types of things you can find out by doing basic background checks. Hopefully, in my experiences, we rarely find anybody with that kind of a background, but you need to do the check anyways. Okay. So do the check, do a background check, see if there's anything legally in their past that suggests that they may not be trustworthy, and you should probably stay away. I would also suggest a credit history check would be good. Now, this might be surprising to you. You might be like, why would I do a credit check on somebody that's not, they're not buying they're not buying a boat. I'm not trying to sell them a house. I don't really care if they have money or don't have money. But a credit check actually can be very, very helpful. And here's the reason why. If you're hiring a bookkeeper that has a mountain of debt, they have hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, okay? And they're now put into a position where they have access to your money. Okay. Again, the temptation can be just too great because they're like, hey, this could be an opportunity to skim a little bit and help me pay off these loans or this debt that I've got. So you're safer, relatively speaking, with someone who has little to no debt. That's why you do a credit check. Again, I'm not expecting you to find anything. I'm not expecting it. I'm expecting you to find the one person who has a lot of debt, which is, again, just a red flag. It's just not a great, out of all the different things that you might have as criteria for hiring a bookkeeper, it's one, and it should be weighed importantly. If they've got a lot, if they have a criminal history, probably not a good sign. If they've got a lot of debt, not a good sign. And one of the other things that we look for is stability. Okay, now this maybe should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways. And that is, in positions that require stability, it really helps to have a stable person. Duh, right? And by the way, I'm going to use an alternative example. If you're looking for an outside salesperson that needs to be able to go travel all around, and they're always going to be on the move, going from this business to this business, knocking on doors, whatever. You don't need somebody that enjoys sitting in an office. It's not going to be a fit. But the exact opposite is true of somebody that you want sitting in front of your computer doing the books. Okay. They don't have to go out talking to people. They don't have to go sell anything. They don't have to go door to door knocking. You need them you need them to sit in front of a computer and do the bookkeeping, right? Someone who is stable is more likely to do a better job in that type of industry or that type of position. So if you've got somebody that has lived in 5 different apartments in the last year and a half, maybe not a good sign. Okay. Now, obviously, there are exceptions. We've hired ladies on our team that were married to a guy that was in the military, and he's getting moved around to military base after military base after military base over a 5-10 year period. Okay. To me, again, everything has nuance, everything has gray areas here. I'm not suggesting you go, oh, well, you've had 10 different houses in the last 10 years. You're not a candidate for me if there's extenuating circumstances. Okay. But if someone doesn't have that story, so to speak, to go along with that, but they've been in 5 different apartments in the last 2 years, there's a little bit of instability there that you may not want within your business. And it's just a red flag that you need to consider. Last thing in this category, how many aliases do they have? Now, it's very, very common when you do a background check for it to have aliases listed. And so that could be, my name is Mary Jane Smith. Sometimes I go by Mary Smith. Sometimes I go by Jane Smith. Some days I go by Mary Ellen Smith, depending on what the names is. Okay. And those are fine. And obviously, if you've got someone who's married and they have a maiden name, again, totally fine. But one of the things that background checks can do for you is check aliases. And so if you've got somebody that is normally Mary Jane, but they also have Susan and Crystal and Bobby Sue and like there's a couple other names in there, that's telling you that they're probably filing applications for credit or different things using assumed names. And that's not always a good sign in the bookkeeping space. So hopefully that helps. Point is, do background checks, and that is going to help you. Okay. Now, the next tip is to have a separation of duties. So let's talk about that. Separation of duties, all that really means is that there are checks and balances. No one has complete control. No one has complete access without review, without approvals, without checks and balances. So don't trust anyone with everything. Okay. Now, I'm going to say something that I hope doesn't strike you the wrong way, but it really is super important. And I need you to hear me because we work with a lot of small businesses here. A lot of those small businesses, you start as a one-person shop and then you maybe grow to 2 or 3 people and eventually, hopefully it's 5 to 10 people. And that's the goal, right? You keep growing and getting bigger and better. Early on in most businesses, a lot of people hire people in their family. Okay. They hire their mother, they hire their sister-in-law, they hire their brother, they hire their cousin, they hire their brother's cousin, sister's friend who they went to college with that also has a buddy that does bookkeeping. Okay. All that put together. Just because you have a family member that says, I am willing and would love to help you and I won't charge you very much, that is not somebody that you give complete trust to. I know it's counterintuitive. You want to trust these people. They're part of your family. However, studies and statistics would suggest that it is those people that you trust the most within your family that will steal from you. Okay. Obviously, it's not every single time. It's not every single family. It's not every single business. But family members are more likely to steal from you than random people that you put controls in place for, because you do trust them. You do trust them implicitly. You don't even question whether or not they're being truthful. And those are the people, since they're not being checked because you trust them, that are more likely to embezzle from your company. So even if they're family, you should put checks and balances in, have separation of duties in place, controls in place to limit the ability for someone to take your money. So here's some specific suggestions for you related to that. Number one, the owner and only the owner should be the person that opens up the mail. Okay. Whoever has access to the mail has access to the money. Okay. No exceptions. The owner needs to be opening the mail, period. Second, whoever is doing the data entry shouldn't be doing the reconciliations. So if I'm entering bills or if I'm recording expenses, I should not be the one to reconcile that. Okay. You need to separate the data entry from the reconciliation. And the reason why is because if I'm going to steal from you, I'm doing the data entry and all I have to do is reconcile it and say, yep, it's good. It's good. It's good. And if you're not checking, who's to say that what I did was right? Who's to say that I didn't do something wrong or deceitful in my data entry? I'm checking the box to say it was good. Okay. So those need to be separated. A couple other examples. If you are receiving invoices from your vendors, in QuickBooks, we call those bills. If you're entering a bill, you shouldn't be the one paying the bill. Okay. So somebody should be entering the bill. Somebody should be reviewing, approving, and paying the bill. And those really, truly should be 2 different people. Okay. Maybe that is your office manager. Maybe that is your bookkeeper, but you as the owner are the one that's reviewing, approving, and paying it. Okay. Same thing for invoicing customers. Someone should be entering and sending out those invoices to your customers, but you need someone else recording the payments and making the deposits. And again, these are just best practices. I'm not saying this is what you have to do in all cases, but these are best practices. If you invoice, someone else should record the payments and deposits. That way, someone along that line can say, this just doesn't look right. What happened here? Help me understand. That's the kind of thing you're looking for. Last point when it comes to separation of duties is to put roles and permissions in place to restrict what people can and can't do. A few examples, and these are things that you can do it very, very easily within QuickBooks. So I'm just kind of using those as the examples, is you can give someone the ability to add transactions, but you don't have to give them the ability to edit or delete those transactions. Okay, so I could have an accounting clerk that's going in and adding bills, recording expenses, but let's say that after they've hit the save button, they or someone else needs to make a change. I'm suggesting let somebody do the additions, but if something needs to get edited or deleted, they need to come talk to you. So that way you can look at it and make sure that you know what is getting changed, or you can verify, should this be edited? Should this be changed? Should this be deleted? Now, this again, this may seem like common sense. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But one of the ways that people steal from you is they'll write a check to themselves, record it, print it, and then they'll change that check to say that it was paid to somebody else, not themselves, in the software. So in the physical world, I've got a check with my name on it. QuickBooks has a check with somebody else's name on it. That is something that can be prevented if you give the ability to add but not edit or delete. So again, that's just one example, but it's super, super important. If you're curious like how that could apply to you, give us a call at VARC Solutions and we can talk to you about how to set that stuff up if you're not sure. All right, I have one last tip for you as part of this episode. It's not in the official list of 7. This is kind of like 7 plus a bonus. Here's your bonus tip. In the QuickBooks world, we've been in this world for over 25 years. Okay, and this might be strange, might be surprising, but QuickBooks, the word QuickBooks, is actually spelled one very specific way. It's got an uppercase Q and it's got an uppercase B. So QuickBooks, okay, uppercase Q, uppercase B. Now, again, I mean this is silly, right? But on a resume, when somebody says I know QuickBooks, if they don't uppercase the B in books, they probably are less likely to really truly know QuickBooks. Okay. Again, I mean, it's very subjective. It's it's a very, very small thing. It's like having a typo on a resume, but it's an insider secret. It's an insider thing. If you're not an insider with QuickBooks and the accounting software, you wouldn't even know that the B should be uppercase because that's not normal capitalization for a word. Okay, that's my point. If you're hiring somebody that truly knows QuickBooks, they should know to uppercase the B in QuickBooks because that's truly part of the trademark or part of the font, if you will, with Intuit and with QuickBooks. Somebody that doesn't know that, it's just a suggestion that maybe they don't know as much about the software as they may say that they do. So that's a little bonus tip. Don't put all your eggs in that particular basket. If you've got a candidate in front of you and they're like amazing in all these different ways and you've tested them, you've background checked them, they've shown you in the software that they know how to move around and they've got basic accounting concepts and they happen to have a lowercase b in QuickBooks, okay, don't worry about it. Just ignore that. But if you've got some other signs and signals within your interviewing process and you're like, I'm just not quite sure, and then you also see a lowercase b in QuickBooks, I would go, okay, you know what? Let's move on with other candidates. Let's see if we can get somebody else that is a better candidate. It's just another signal to pay attention to. All right. So that is this episode for today. I hope you got something out of this. If you are looking to hire a bookkeeper for your company, we hope that these 7 tips will be super helpful for you. It'll help you find the right bookkeeper for your company. It'll help vet or qualify those people. And I wish you all the best in that search. If there's anything that I can do to help you, whether it's looking at a resume for you, if you're like, hey, I've got these 2 candidates, I'm just not sure which one's the right one. Can you give me your thoughts and suggestions? Send me, contact us through our website. Send me the 2 resumes. I'll look at them and give you an opinion back. Happy to do that. If there's anything we can help you in terms of your own setup and configuration, separation of duties, making sure that your workflows are correct, happy to help with that as well. Give us a call, let us know. And of course, we're in the bookkeeping business as well. So if you're just looking for somebody that you can outsource that type of service to, we're more than happy to help. All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of There's a Solution for That, and we will see you next time. There is a Solution for That is produced by VARC Solutions. This episode was produced by Ashley White and Aaron Riley. You can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Watch the video version on youtube.com/There's a Solution for That. Or visit varcsolutions.com/podcast, where you'll find our entire podcast archive, as well as show notes, links to solution providers, and complete transcripts of every episode. If you love the podcast, please leave a review with your comments.